What's poppin' Chop Squad? Slate D Biggs for AnimeMCS. It's the end of the year. It's December. 2019 is coming to a close and we are jumping into a new decade. A new decade of music. A new decade of entertainment. Anime. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be awesome. But before we start looking at the future, today we are going to be talking about the past year. This is not a usual video for the channel at all. I did say that I was going to be making these listicles. All the other ones are about anime and manga. But this one in particular is about something else near and dear to my heart, music. As most people do, I grew up loving music. I've always been super into music. I started playing Guitar Hero and it was done with after that. I had to get a real guitar and that's kind of where I got the inspiration from. So I've been playing the guitar for over 11 years now. I listen to a bit of everything. I can go from bluegrass, old school country, to electronic music from anywhere around the world, traditional music, metal, fucking deathcore. I don't care. I love it. If it sounds good to me, I'm down for it. So this is my top 10 albums of 2019. My number 10 album of the year is Tyler the Creator's Igor. In Igor, we see Tyler moving in an extremely different direction. This is not the rap album that a lot of people expected. Yes, there is still a lot of rap elements on it. It's still very Tyler the Creator. In fact, I would say maybe the most Tyler the Creator that he's ever been, if that makes any sense at all. Typically, I would want to just listen to this thing in album format. It goes together that way. I love the way he wrote the album. I do find some of the pitching on the vocals to be a little off, but it's nothing new for Tyler the Creator. I'm not going to fault him on that. Not the decision I would have made, but that's alright. 3 songs from the album that I think are worth checking out if you haven't listened to Igor yet. The ones that really stuck out to me, the ones that I would say you should check out if you want to get an idea of how the whole album goes, are Running Out of Time is the first one, New Magic Wand, and Igor's Theme. I feel like those songs are a good way to kind of get an idea of what this album's about without listening to the whole thing, but as with all of these albums, I recommend listening to the whole thing. My number 9 album of 2019 is Pup's Morbid Stuff. Punk, post-punk, pop-punk, whatever the hell you want to call Pup. It's good shit to skate to. It's good stuff to just get your punk vibes going. In Pup's Morbid Stuff, they find themselves growing older, trying to grapple with their mortality, trying to just find a way to navigate this insanity that we call a culture, that we call a society here coming up in 2020. How much hope do we really have in the world? If you're a fan of punk, metal even, at some points on this album, it does get kind of metal sounding. I would highly recommend listening to this whole album. I think that the writing is great. They do a great job on the instrumentals. The guitar work doesn't get boring. It's not the same repeated drum beats over and over again. Every song sounds very particularly different. So it's just a masterwork of modern day punk. 3 songs that I would say to check out to get a good idea of how the album works as a whole would be Free at Last, the title track Morbid Stuff, and Scorpion Hill, which is probably one of the strangest tracks on the album, but it's oh so good. My number 8, I believe to be an EP. I wouldn't call it an album, but a lot of rappers these days are putting out really short projects and calling it an album. I don't know what to call it, except for that it's Denzel Curry's Zoo. Denzel Curry. What is there really to say about this guy? He did a performance, a cover of Bulls on Parade on Triple J's Like a Virgin, and that shit was off the fucking chain, dude. If anyone here knows about Denzel Curry, they probably got exposure to him from his last album. He's got makeup on. He's yelling. The energy is high. His lyrics are great. I think every song on Zoo It is short and to the point. It's a jam. Nothing drags on for too long. Nothing seems like he didn't put enough into it. It's really catchy. The hooks on the songs are great. Denzel picks great beats. And I think he's one of modern day rap's like most prominent up and coming artists. Fucking fantastic songs on this album / EP that stand out to me the most are Speedboat, Wish, and of course, Ricky. Number 7 is The Devil Wears Prada, The Act. The Devil Wears Prada, one of my favorite metalcore bands from back in the day. And honestly, they've never lost my heart at all. I love their lyrics. I love the music. They always stay new, fresh, and interesting. If you look back at any of their albums and you think that it's boring or plain, it's because they were the ones coming up with all the signature things that you hear today. They were the ones making the music that kind of pushed the whole scene core MySpace thing out into the mainstream. These guys have had top 9, top 10 Billboard albums. The Act sees The Devil Wears Prada moving in different directions and trying new things. Some of these songs are the softest songs that they've ever had on an album, and it doesn't really feel like they're playing into it to be more popular. It doesn't feel like a gimmick. They've always had soft material on an album. They've always had Jeremy's beautiful voice, but here I feel like him and Mike mesh together better than they ever have on an album. 3 songs that really stand out to me on this album personally are The Thread, Please Say No, and the first song on the album, Switchblade. I think this album is great from start to finish. It's brutal, it's beautiful, it's everything you could want out of metal, metalcore, whatever the hell you want to call it. My number 6 album of the decade is Flying Lotus's Flamagua.
Flamagra? Flamagra.
Personally, I thought it was really good and interesting all the way through. It does feel like there are a lot of filler tracks, but it's just little like 1-2 minute beats. Then they move on to the next song. I think a lot of the features on this album really make it great. There are a lot of songs that Flying Lotus does by himself on the album that I find very, very enjoyable to listen to. Something like Post-Requisite finds him in familiar territory where he's kind of been hanging out always. And I don't know how much progression you're expecting from Flying Lotus's music. You just kind of get what you get. He's always going to give you the same thing he's been doing, and that's why I love him. And you have to appreciate that Flying Lotus and Thundercat make so much music together, and Thundercat just kind of sneaks his way onto so many of Flying Lotus's songs that Flying Lotus might as well be a name representing like him and Thundercat as a duo, because that's pretty much what it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. That's great. I fucking love Thundercat. I'm a bass player. A lot of you probably don't know that because I haven't talked too much about my personal life, but I've played bass professionally in a band before. I still play the bass, and I'm trying to get another band together, but I'm a bass connoisseur, and Thundercat is a master. Anyway, I am not here to gush about Thundercat. The 3 songs that I thought really stood out the most and that just put this album together for me are the aforementioned Post-Requisite, and then Black Balloon's Reprise featuring Denzel Curry, and More featuring Anderson .Paak, whatever. The features on this album are fantastic. Black Balloon's Reprise, Denzel has high energy. He really makes the song. His lyrics are fantastic. Anderson, what he does in the song More, and how it's like 2 or 3 songs put together, basically. I love it. I love how it sounds, and I could listen to this album over and over again. It really takes me back to a dark time in the year when I'm just like walking around in the middle of the night listening to this and getting real atmospheric with this shit. My number 5 album of the year is Dreamville's Revenge of the Dreamers 3. Dreamville is filled with fantastic artists. From JID to the Earth Gang Boys, you got Boss, who is one of my favorite rappers right now. J. Cole is doing his thing on there. Everyone sounds great. There are a couple songs that sound a little off. I don't really care for the Smoke Session song so much. I think it's something 1994. I don't remember. 1993 maybe. I like a lot of the songs on this project. Costa Rica Goes In, Under the Sun, the track that the album starts off with is just, it's fucking awesome. It's got that Kendrick Lamar feature that is kind of snuck in there. J. Cole sounds great on all the tracks that he's on. Boss really sounds great. And I feel like everyone that's on a track with JID or JID, whatever, however you pronounce it, they're really trying to pick up their pants and write on par with him, because this kid is a fantastic rapper and writer. I think he's really something to look forward to in the future, and just look out for this kid. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. My absolute favorite song on this album is Sacrifices. It's the closing track. It's like 6 minutes long, I think, but I don't even think that's long enough. I could listen to that shit, and I have listened to it on repeat over and over again. I love this album. It's particularly good for like a group album, you know? Like, I don't expect too much out of like a label compilation album, but this one, it just blew me away. These guys are great, and if you haven't checked it out yet, you definitely should. Number 4 album of 2019. I'm going to have to give it to American Football's LP3. American Football 3 finds them kind of in a shoegazy atmosphere. They still have a lot of their kind of math rock, math punk, I don't know what the hell you would call it, elements, but it's really toned down. The songs are really soft. They're catchy. You can lay back, light up a joint, and just chill the fuck out and get really melancholy and depressed to this album, and I love it. Personally, their first album, it's great. It's most people's favorite of theirs, but I'm having trouble deciding on whether or not I like 3 more than the first one, because this one just, it really speaks to me. I've had a long, hard, depressing year, and this is just an album that talks to me. It whispers my name in every song. Also, American Football had a Tiny Desk concert appearance, and they played a couple songs from this album. It was phenomenal. I highly recommend checking that out. I highly recommend checking out American Football in general. They're like post-punk rock, math rock. This is really shoegazy. It's soft. It's beautiful. I don't know exactly what to call it, but amazing. My favorite songs from this album are I Can't Feel You, Uncomfortably Numb, and Every Wave to Ever Rise. My number 3 album of 2019 is Earl Sweatshirt's Feet in Clay. Last year, Earl closed out 2018 by releasing Some Rap Songs, which was my number 2 album of 2018. I like the direction he's going in. I love the lo-fi shit. I love the low energy. I love when he picks it up a couple times in this little 15-minute EP. It has very few songs, and I feel like all of them are pretty quality. Sure, you can go ahead and say he's Baby Doom. He sounds just like MF Doom. There's a lot of people out there with this sound, but I don't think anyone's really doing it exactly like Earl Sweatshirt, and I don't think they're going to. He's more focused on writing things with substance that are packed together really tight nowadays, instead of just spitting every single rhyme he can into a bar, and that's fine. I can still go back and listen to all of his features, his old Earl EP, which I'm sure he wants to distance himself from greatly. Doris, I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside. It's all good. Earl is my favorite rapper, and I highly look forward to everything he puts out, whether it's a little SoundCloud snippet or an EP. I don't really give a shit. I just love getting new music from Tebe. My favorite songs on this project are Tomb, which I think you would just say M-T-O-M-B, O-D, and Tisk Tisk Cookies.
I got the cookies, put them in the jar.
Man, that shit is dope. And I have a lot more to say about it, but for the sake of time, I should move on. Check out Earl Sweatshirt if you haven't before. My number 2 of the year is a band that came out of nowhere for me. I was cruising the new releases on Spotify, like I do every week, and that's mostly the mainstream stuff, but they still stick good shit on there sometimes. So I see this album with a blue cover. It's got somebody with blonde hair bleeding, and there's a strip covering his face saying, "Okay, I'm sick." The band is called Bad Flower, and that is the album's name. I'd never heard of this band before I listened to it, but I started the album, and immediately from the song Xanax and on, it's blowing my mind, and I'm loving it. It really brings me back to the My Chemical Romance days in a lot of ways. Their singer Josh is passionate. His lyrics are fantastic. Their songwriting is really creative, it's really engaging, and it's really personal. I think these guys have pretty much mastered what their sound is, and I think the only place they can go is up. I really enjoy what these guys do. My favorite songs on the album are We're in Love, Ghost, and Heroin. Those are singles with music videos and everything, but there's a reason for that. It's because they really are great songs. Super personal. They cover so many emotional, just like heavy topics throughout the whole album. If you like My Chemical Romance, if you like that kind of emo rock style, check it out. Start to finish, the whole thing's good. Finally, we're at number 1, but before that, I'm going to give a couple shout outs. I'm really not going to talk about these much, but we have the first one, I would say Coldplay's new album. I haven't had enough time to really sit down with it, but I did enjoy a lot of the songs on it. I even cried to the song Daddy, and that's okay. My number 2 shout out is Beautiful Oblivion by Issues. This album is creative. It sees Michael Bone leaving the group. Now it's just fronted by Tyler, and he's doing a great job. They have so many styles, from like kind of a metalcore heaviness that's mixed in with funk, R&B. Really interesting and great stuff. My last shout out is going to I Set My Friends on Fire's Astral Rejection OG. This is the album that they wrote first. Before they re-recorded, they pretty much just scrapped and re-recorded the whole thing after Nabil left the group. Sort of disappointing that they didn't just go with this, because this whole album is badass. This is where I wanted to see I Set My Friends on Fire go. After an awesome album like You Can't Spell Slaughter Without Laughter, that's like peak MySpace emo core, and this album doesn't disappoint. This is what they should have put out. I wholeheartedly believe that. I'm just glad that we got to hear it now in 2019, so many years later. Now, we're on to my number 1 album of 2019. This is another artist that came out of nowhere for me. Never heard of her before, didn't have any idea who she was. But I frequent Tiny Desk concert videos, and I watched one by a girl called Stella Donnelly. Her album, Beware of the Dogs. She's an Australian songwriter, singer, performer. She plays the guitar. She writes these beautiful songs. Her melodies are great. I find the instrumentals on a lot of her songs very enjoyable. Not very technical, but you don't need that in the singer-songwriter world. Her accent comes out a lot in her singing. Her kind of goat vibrato that she throws into a lot of lines is very nice. I think it's extremely catchy. The album covers a lot of heavy, emotional topics in a very lighthearted, cotton candy kind of way that really draws you in. You get bumping your head, and then you really start listening to what she's saying in a song like Old Man or Boys Will Be Boys, and you get kind of bummed out. She's really speaking the truth on these songs. Her songs are great. She's an artist to look out for. for years to come. I'm always going to be super excited to hear anything that Stella Donnelly puts out. I really love Beware the Dogs. It also helps that my daughter loves Beware the Dogs, so I get to hear songs from it all the time because she wants me to play them, and I don't mind it at all. I think I'm raising her right. All the songs on this album are great, but if I had to pick a couple of songs to really get someone interested in the album and get an idea of kind of what she sounds like overall, I would recommend the song Old Man. Beware of the Dogs, the title track, is great. Tricks, Mosquito, so many good songs. Fuck it, I'll recommend all of them. Stella Donnelly's Beware the Dogs is great. It's my number one album of 2019. Singer, songwriter, soft, beautiful. That's all I got for this one. I know it was kind of long and it's an offbeat video as far as the rest of the channel's content goes. I'll try to find a way to compartment these, make them a little easier to watch, but the rest of them I plan on doing with friends and my brother, so I don't see it getting any shorter at all. If anything, it's going to be twice as long as this one. Woo! I love you guys. Thanks for the support. This has been Slate D Biggs' top albums of 2019. I'm ready to jump into 2020 and see what kind of awesome music that we're going to get next year. Hell, if this video gets any kind of attention, I might start talking about music more, because like anime and manga, my other absolute passion is music. I love playing music. I've always loved being in bands for the past 10, 11 years. That's been my life. It's easy for me to talk about music. I'm not so sure that my critiques, criticisms, or why I favor the way I describe music is even interesting, but hey, I love doing it. So, peace out, y'all. Happy New Year's. Let's fucking get it.